Howdy, y'all. It's another episode of the O Show podcast. It's episode 503. We are presented by Mayweather Boxing and Fitness in Scottsdale, Arizona. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness is an inclusive, high-intensity fitness experience developed by Floyd Money Mayweather. The champ on your screen right now, ladies and gentlemen, formulated with the perfect combination of boxing, strength, and cardio conditioning intervals designed to make you look good, feel good, and leave you with more than just a great sweat. Head on down to Mayweather Boxing and Fitness in Scottsdale, AZ. We're also brought to you by betonline.ag. You can sign up for that 50% bonus at betonline.ag by using the promo code capital BLEAV50 for that 50% bonus. We're also presented by Eat Clean Phoenix out here in the desert. You can call that number on the screen right now, ladies and gentlemen, 602-573-7643 for your order. Arizona's #1 meal delivery service, Tuesday through Thursday. Also, we want to give a quick shout out to State 48 as well. Head on over to state48.com for all the latest merch here in the heart of the Valley of the Sun. We got a special guest for you in studio today. Penn State, UMass, All-American tight end. What, three-time All-American tight end?
It depends who you ask. But yeah.
Host of the Breneman Show. He's an Avalon, New Jersey vacationer.
Yes, sir.
Adam Breneman, man. Glad we got to do this.
It's good to be here, man. I appreciate it.
You've been all over the place.
Yeah,
I've been doing shows in Delaware, back east.
Sure. I've been traveling. I was in a 5-day span. I was in Pennsylvania, Delaware, and New Jersey. Flew to Fort Lauderdale and then back to Phoenix. So it's a lot.
Do you like
Rehoboth
traveling. Beach?
Yeah, been to Rehoboth. So my family vacations in Rehoboth, but Avalon's my place. So that's.
Did you enjoy growing up in Pennsylvania, or was it more of like I got to get out of here once you were out?
I liked it. I thought I was going to be there for a while. The only reason I came out here was when Arizona State hired me. So that was kind of when I got the coaching job out here. I'd never even heard of Scottsdale.
Yeah.
And I just flew across the country on like a week's notice and moved here, and I love it now. I'm hopefully going to be here for a while.
I honestly think Scottsdale and the whole Phoenix area is the place to be right now, especially if
really
you're like business oriented,
especially
and
after
you're looking
COVID.
to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the weather's perfect, but there's a lot of great connections out here. There's a lot of great people moving out here. The community's awesome.
Yeah.
And you can't beat the Sun Devils, man.
Yeah, it's such a cool place to live. I mean, there's so many people are moving here right now that it's like such a hot time to be in Scottsdale or at least in the Phoenix area. So many cool things to do. You're never bored. The weather's great. I just wish I'm a beach guy, so I wish there was a little closer to the beach.
That's what I'm saying. Like
that's why I fly back to Philly to do the hour drive to Avalon.
Dude, Avalon, we've been vacating. Like my parents vacationed there back in like the 80s. We've been doing it ever since as kids and cousins growing up. So it's like a huge family vacation.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I had the picture of it right now, but all Jersey, all Bostonians, every single year we just flip off the camera.
I love it. Yeah.
Like literally, like the 2-year-olds, my grandma, like everybody.
Yeah. I always say like that strip in New Jersey of like Sea Isle, Avalon, Stone Harbor is like one of my favorite places in the world.
Stone Harbor,
such a cool place to be. Like
Stone Harbor is an awesome place to be because I mean they got all the shops and it's just it's like a 20-minute drive down the road.
Yeah. It's like you go like younger to older as you go down the Sea Isle, Avalon, Stone Harbor.
What street did you have a house on?
Well, so me and my buddies would rent a house every summer. So I couldn't even tell you like where. We used to be a different one every summer. We'd rent it for like, whatever the Memorial Day to like the end of the summer, Wow. We would do the whole like 3-month span.
That's the way to do it.
But it was
especially
always
down the shore.
some shitty house. We'd be like sleeping like 14 dudes in like a 4-bedroom house, So it was always a fun time.
As long as you were able to afford the bills, though.
Yeah.
Like we always pick the same house every year. I'm like, I want to mix it up. Like we're down the shore, like let's make it interesting.
Yeah,
but,
it was fun.
Growing up, were you always like the big? I don't want to say you were a jock. Because that can be like misconvoluted, like jocks and nerds and everything. But like you were. Big guy, football player, I'm sure, in high school, leading up to getting the gig with Penn State.
For sure. Yeah, I wasn't really the most athletic until I hit like 14 years old.
Oh, really?
When I was super big and clumsy. Like I could barely like walk without tripping over myself all the time. And then once I hit high school, I started to like, become more coordinated, realized I could catch the ball pretty well, and it kind of took off from there. But I was always a big dude. I mean, since I was, a little kid, I was always tall and used to be really skinny and now, gained weight then in college, but it used to be an issue of like I was too skinny all the time. So I used to have to gain weight, and now it's the opposite. Now I'm trying to lose weight, and it's
Yeah.
harder to lose weight. You know?
You ever
But, like,
try the GOMAD diet?
no, what's that?
It was a gallon of milk a day.
Really?
I did that.
I'm
senior year in high
anti-dairy right
school.
now, so I can't do that.
It's
yeah.
awful. I don't know why anybody would do it. I don't know. Like, if you want to gain weight, 25 pounds in 25 days by the end of the month, GOMAD, gallon of milk a day. I did it in my senior year in high school. Didn't gain anything. I have the fastest metabolism in the world. But if anything, my stamina was gone.
Yeah.
Like, I had nothing left. I didn't want to
you
get out
get
of bed.
tired,
I'm like,
yeah.
this sucks.
I used to, like, when I was in high school trying to gain weight, I would do the same kind of thing. Not whole milk or not a gallon of milk, but I would do like very strict, like making sure I'm hitting a certain amount of calories to the point where like I was almost like gagging on my food by the end of the day because I was eating so much food. You know, like just getting down. Like every class in high school, I'd eat a different snack bar, like massive lunches. But it's a dedication you take to try to gain weight. You know,
It's so difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, you did it, you know, and obviously you had the size to begin with. Was there pressure on you to play sports early on?
I just naturally like started playing sports. I mean, my parents kind of kept me out of football a little longer than I wanted. I wanted to play earlier. My dad played football in college, so I wanted to play tight end and like he did. And but they kind of held me out until I think I was like in middle school when I started playing. So, but you know, I'm glad that they kind of made me wait till I did. They didn't want me to be like 8 years old banging my head against people.
Right.
You know? So I think it worked out. The timing wise.
I played through Pee Wee like 2 years.
Yeah. Any good? Were you
MCL
good?
injury.
In Pee Wee?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Like last 2 weeks in practice. Like, you know, at the end of practice, you have like the practice squad scrimmage.
Freaking.
Yeah. 2
I
weeks.
never heard of
was
an
like,
MCL in Pee Wee. That's
like 10 years old. Yeah.
You're going
Right?
crazy. Huh?
Yeah.
I
Literally, I was probably the worst athlete in the world, if I'm being honest with you. I had no business being out there.
Yeah.
But it was
It's a good thing you
worth the
can talk
experience.
well then. You know?
I know, right? I always knew in the back of my head, I think I could analyze
Yeah,
this stuff pretty
for sure.
well. You know, it's worked out well so far, but
Yeah,
who
it's
knows?
awesome.
All it takes is one vocal cord to go out, and
No doubt.
the
Then you're
dream's
done.
over.
Then you're done,
right?
right? For sure.
So at what age did you realize, like, I'm gonna, like, it's a reality now that you're gonna go to the next level in college, as opposed to it just being a dream?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was probably like my freshman year of high school. I like started to play really well. After my sophomore year is when I started to get recruited. So my high school head coach, a guy named Jim Contafio, brought me and my family in as a freshman. I just finished my freshman season. He sat me and my parents down, and he said, I'm telling you right now, like Adam will be one of the highest recruited kids in the country. Like he's going to be a national recruit. And I was like, me? Like I had no offers at the time. And he just is like, I'm telling you, like when he, you know, come next year, like he's going to have offers from everyone in the country. It's going to be crazy. Like it's going to be a crazy process. And I didn't really believe him. I mean, I thought I was going to be good, but like that was ridiculous. And then after my sophomore season, sure enough, like my first offer was like Boston College. Just called I took a visit. They offered me there. That was my first offer. And then like Temple offered me in Pennsylvania, which is like a small school. And then like one day Notre Dame comes to the school and offers me. And once Notre Dame offered me, like it opened the floodgates, and it was just like a crazy whirlwind of next 2 years for recruiting.
It's funny, like being on the East Coast, all those small schools that you mentioned. Like, I know Temple, of course.
Yeah, for sure. But no one else really knows Temple other than the East Coast people.
No, that's got to be exciting for you, though.
Yeah.
Because now your confidence is probably at an all-time high. You're ready to go. You're ready to prove people why you belong.
It's crazy how it like changes your life overnight, especially for someone. I was 15 years old, you know, and you think about even like in today's football, like you have kids getting recruited so young, and it's just tough to deal with. You know, in the moment it's great, but you really end up believing a lot of your own hype. You know, and that's what happened to me. Like, not necessarily a bad thing, but like everyone tells you how great you are. I mean, that's all that you hear for your whole high school career, because every college coach who's talking to you tells you you're amazing. You're going to come here and be an All-American. You're going to play in the NFL. Like, we love you. You're the best thing ever. Like, as you're getting recruited, everyone in your high school thinks you're the freaking man because you're getting offered by everyone.
You're a big fish in a
so
small
you get a
pond.
really big ego when you're really not prepared at 15, 16, 17 years old to handle that kind of attention. And you know, it took some setbacks for me to like get leveled back down and realize that like, okay, you can't get too high and you can't get too low. Like you just got to kind of be consistent all the time. But that I see it even when I was coaching. Like I saw it all the time with kids that like we'd be recruiting who were 16 years old who just thought that they were the greatest thing since sliced bread.
When you're 15, 16 years old, like you
It's
really
not
haven't
their
had
fault.
that many experiences.
Not at all.
Like when your highs are high, you're like, I'm the man.
That's it. You're like, that's how life is. Everyone tells me how great I am every day, the teachers in class let me do whatever I want because I'm the big recruit that has offers to go everywhere. So it's definitely an interesting dynamic just to think of, like, and I lived it, and then I also have witnessed it a lot with a lot of kids.
You're just like a big fish in a small pond.
For
so
sure.
it was probably the biggest culture shock training day, like literally when you got to camp and you're like, I'm average.
You get to college and you realize, like, I'm not very good anymore. Yeah. Not only are you average, but no one cares anymore about what you did in high school. Like, very, very early on in college, I realized that, like, I was a 5-star recruit in high school. Not a single person at Penn State cared how many stars I had in high school.
No.
It was just all a blank slate. Like, you got to go prove yourself all over again. And
where was your confidence at starting out? Like, were you kind of like up and down? Like, okay, I'm not as good as I thought I was, but at the same time, like, I have to prove myself. Like, the motivation's there, the adrenaline's there. Like, where was your head at?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I think I struggled with confidence early on in my career because I think this is kind of analysis, like, looking back on it. I think I got a lot of my validation as a high school kid from, like, the outside, from people telling you how great you are. That then when you get there, you're kind of like, and people stop telling you how great you are, you got to really believe in yourself that, like, okay, I am as good as everyone says I am. And I struggled with that early. I mean, I had a lot of success as a freshman at Penn State. I had some ups and downs. Like, as a freshman at Penn State, I made some big plays, was a freshman All-American, but still had some, like, I got benched in the middle of the season, like, had some bad plays. Like, freshmen are, I was young and kind of immature and just kind of, like, doubting if I belonged on the same field as all those guys. No one knew I was doubting that, but deep down, you're like, man, like, am I good enough to be here? But, overcame that pretty quickly. But it's just, that's the whole dynamic again. You listen, everyone tells you how great you are in high school, you get to college, and it's just a whole different game.
And you're not just playing for some rinky-dink program either.
Exactly.
You're a Nittany line, man.
Yeah,
like,
it's big-time football. Yeah.
Like, what's going through your head? Like, what was, like, the off-the-field stuff like being a part of the football program?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, what made it also crazier than just a normal like Penn State player is I went there in the middle of the Jerry Sandusky scandal at Penn State. So not only was I a Penn State football player, but I was a Penn State football player that stuck with Penn State during the scandal. So all the fans and everyone was, like, beloved, or just loved us because, like, me and some of the other guys in that recruiting class, like, went to Penn State in the middle of that scandal. So people were really thankful for that because a lot of people were like, why would you go to Penn State when they're about to get sanctions? I mean, that was now like 10 years ago, but I mean, I'm sure you remember, like, the whole scandal that went on there with just everything. It was a bad time in Penn State's history, but we decided to still go. So it was a really unique time to be there as well because there was so much media attention. Like, the news was always talking about Penn State. It was just really kind of a crazy time, but but that just added to, like, the off the field part where, like, everyone knows your name. You're going to class and people are, like, stopping you, like, saying, like, hey, good luck this week, man. Like, people you don't even know. You're going out at night. We would go out as, like, players, and, like, you're going to, like, a frat party, and, like, there's guys, like, wearing your jerseys at the frat parties. It's just, like, you got to be – it's such a small town there. You got to really be make sure you're on top of it at all times. And if you're not, you can slip pretty easily.
I mean, that in and of itself, like, right before we came on, I'm like, I hope we don't talk about anything controversial. Like, it's crazy. We were, like, right, like, in the thick of things as soon as all that was going down. Poor Joe, who was literally admired as one of the greatest college coaches ever, got all of his stuff taken away after that, and then shortly after passed away because he got sick.
Such a crazy situation.
Like night and day.
Yeah.
That's what year were you? Was it, like, as you were coming in?
So I was so the scandal broke in 2012, I believe. I was the scandal broke before I committed to Penn State, so I was still in high school. And then Joe Pa had just, like, was on his way out, or had just gotten, like, removed from being a head coach. He got fired when I was in high school. They hired Bill O'Brien to be the head coach, who then went on to go coach for the Houston Texans. I committed to play for Bill O'Brien, so that was kind of when I was in there. And then after that, after I committed, the sanctions came out, and the NCAA announced that Penn State couldn't play in bowl games. They were losing all these scholarships, that any player at Penn State could transfer and leave. It was like essentially a death penalty for Penn State football. They tried to ruin the program. But we decided to still go there. So that was kind of, like, added to the whole dynamic, and it was such a unique like time to be there. You just mentioned the controversial part. The interesting thing for me, and, like, for the other kids in my recruiting class, being as young as we were, I went to Penn State when I was 17. Was just, like, the sensitivity of the situation that we were in. I mean, and just, like, we would obviously get asked about it a lot and talk about it a lot, but just it wasn't just like any scandal. Like it was like some really serious stuff that was going on at Penn State, like that is like disgusting stuff. So like it was like tough for us to talk about at such a young age, you know, because it was such a sensitive subject as well.
I mean, I forget most of those details, but looking back at it, like if that happened today, I think obviously the repercussions would be huge. But
For sure.
when you look at what happened, obviously with Jerry, it was kept under wraps by multiple coaches on the coaching staff, including Joe, right?
Yeah. Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly, like it was never even confirmed, but they still took away.
Yeah, I don't even know all the details of it. I mean, it was really, you know, there's a lot of like different stories of like what Joe was told and what he wasn't told, or what details he was told, or, you know, it's just it's just a sad story. I mean, Joe meant so much to that university and had done so much good for a lot of people, and even like being a kid from Pennsylvania who like adored Joe Paterno. My whole life, it was just such a crazy time. I mean, just to see someone like fall that fast when he was, you know, he was Penn State, and really, it's a good example of like how powerful the media is. I mean, the media really like attacked Joe and that whole thing when really, I mean, he wasn't the focus of it at all. I mean, in the grand jury report that came out, I mean, Joe's name was mentioned like 1 or 2 times in the whole thing, and it was all, you know, he was just like a little glimpse of it, but that was what the media ran with, and you know, I'm sure that Joe, I think he said like in hindsight, I wish I would have done more, and I'm sure that you know he could have done more, but it's just such a crazy subject to even dive into.
Do you even like think that it was an accurate thing to take away all of their postseason hopes, and obviously all the accolades was an entirely different thing in its own right, but do you think it was too harsh of a punishment? Like Sandusky's gone for life, right?
Yeah,
like
I think the hard part was like the NCAA, which has a lot of issues on its own, was basically punishing all the kids that were on the team currently that had nothing to do with this 20 years ago when it happened.
Yeah.
So like all the kids on the team, like guys like me, like they said like, okay, we can't play in a bowl game. We're gonna lose all these scholarships. We're going to lose X, Y, Z. They tried to ruin our program, but it was really, it was affecting no one who actually was at fault. It was affecting the people that had nothing to do with it. And I get that you have to punish the institution, like when things like that happen, but the NCAA actually came out and like reversed their sanctions against Penn State. So they took them away then and said that we shouldn't have done that. Basically saying that it wasn't, there wasn't an NCAA rule violation essentially in that we're going to give we're going to allow the team to play in bowl games, do all that kind of stuff. So that was a big moment for like us when we were there. I remember when Coach Franklin, our head coach, came in and told us that the sanctions are gone. We can now go to bowl games. Was a pretty cool moment. But yeah, just so many different facets to that you know, that time.
I mean, I could only imagine. And how long were you there before UMass came into the picture?
I was at Penn State for 3 years. So I was at Penn State 2013 to 2015. And then thought I was done playing football, and then transferred to UMass for my final 2 years, which is really where like my career took off at UMass.
So did you get 5th year eligibility?
So I redshirted for a year. So I redshirted at Penn State, which gave me 2 more full seasons at UMass, which was cool. I was able to get my master's degree when I was there, so it was a cool time.
Probably a completely different culture too.
Oh, completely.
Like
different.
you're close to Pittsburgh at Penn State.
Yeah, you're probably like 3 hours or. Actually, probably 2 hours outside of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Complete. I mean, UMass football versus Penn State football is like completely different world. So that was a interesting dynamic.
And after 3 years of being at such a big program with everything that you had to endure and experience both on and off the field there, unintentionally, probably going to UMass, you're probably confident, like new start. New teammates, probably going to be a little bit of a culture shock at first, but like, did you fit in nicely there? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was good. I think it's exactly what I needed at that point in my career. I mean, I had been such a highly rated recruit going to Penn State, had a lot of success early on in my career, and then had a lot of adversity. There were the 2 seasons after my freshman year at Penn State, I didn't play. I was hurt for 2 years in a row. So when I left Penn State, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I wasn't sure if I was going to keep playing football, if I was going to like go get a job. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was only 20 years old. And I think UMass was a perfect way for me to like have a comeback and to kind of get like off the grid, like get a little bit away from like my hometown school, away from the Penn State media. That was, every day there was a new story like about my knee or like what was going on. Just get away from all that and go to UMass where I had some connections. My high school quarterback was playing there. The head coach is a guy I know really well. So it was kind of a perfect fit for me to go there and kind of rejuvenate my career, and it ended up working out.
I mean, you probably got to play with a ton of just like different type of dynamic players that you didn't
Yeah.
get to probably play with at Penn State, given that you were under so much scrutiny and at the same time competing against other huge programs.
Yeah.
Where at UMass, things were a lot more laid back.
Yeah, it was it's just very different dynamics in the program. I mean, just the kind of, like you said, the kind of guys you recruit, where you recruit. At UMass, because it's not a Penn State, it's big time football, but it's not big time football. A lot of times when you get players at UMass, you got to sacrifice somewhere in order to get a kid. Like,
Oh yeah.
you either get a kid that's like a really good player and really athletic, but like maybe has a couple issues off the field, or maybe doesn't have very good grades, or you get a kid that's like not that athletic, but like great locker room guy, like really smart. Like, where Penn State, you're getting kids that are really athletic, really good kids, and really good grades, so they don't have to sacrifice anywhere. So at UMass, it was really a unique mix of like different people and people from all over the world. Really, we were recruiting Germany. I mean, they were getting kids from everywhere to go to UMass, just trying to find guys that could play. I mean, it's not an easy place to. I mean, not a lot of people want to go to Massachusetts to play football. It's like a kind of a unique place to recruit to. It's kind of off the grid a little bit.
That's interesting. Tom Brady, greatest quarterback of all time.
True.
20 years in Foxborough, man. But that's interesting. I feel like you always had it in the back of your head, like you were wired to be a coach. Almost. Yeah. Like you did. How big of a gap was it after you graduated that you knew that you wanted to pursue something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably within the year after I stopped playing, I knew that I wanted to be around football somehow.
Yeah.
So I started working in politics when I stopped.
Really?
When I stopped playing football, so I worked in politics for like 2 years, which was cool and was really on like the campaign side of things, was like helping candidates run campaigns on like the media, PR side, branding, that kind of stuff. So I was working on that for a couple of years and knew I missed football. I got into like the media stuff a little bit. And then one day I was thinking about coaching, but coaching's such a large like commitment, and you have to be like really wired a different way to coach. Like those guys, like coaches are like grinding, like you're working all the time, you're recruiting all the time. Your livelihood in college football is recruiting. So it's like, it's not a great lifestyle. And I've always been a hard worker, but I just never really appealed to me that much.
Yeah.
And one day I get a call from a coach I know who was my strength coach in college at UMass, is now the strength coach at ASU. So he calls me one day, and I'm like waking up to go to work, and he's like, "Hey, would you want to come coach at Arizona State?" And I was like, "Can I get some more details?"
Yeah,
like,
right.
"What do you mean?" And he said, "We're looking for an assistant that can help coach the tight ends, and like, I just think you'd be a great fit." And he's like, "Our offensive coordinator, Zach Hill, is going to call you." And so he calls me, we talked, and then the next day he like called me, offered me the job, and I decided to do it, and just literally in like the blink of an eye, like quit my job, moved across the country like a week later, and I'd never even been to Arizona before, and moved out here.
That's crazy. I wouldn't even think politics for you to start.
Yeah, it's kind of a
outside
strange
school.
thing. I just like, I knew a guy who was running for state senate, and like started working for him, and then it ended up just like we won. So then when you win, like people want to keep hiring you, So it was just kind of a unique thing. I've always liked politics. I think I like the competitiveness of it. Like I don't love like policy, and so I don't care about, like, I don't love like talking about like foreign policy and stuff, but I love like just the competitiveness of like the campaign world. It's really interesting. But I kind of took like a 180 and just got into coaching. Right.
I mean, you kind of went back to your first love. You're not
For
playing, but like you're helping develop and mold these young players and also young men. I feel like you're building character off the field, and at the same time, like you said before at the beginning, like you're recruiting these 15, 16-year-old kids that just think they're hot shit coming in. And then they realize they just hit a brick wall, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not good at it all."
No doubt, yeah. And that's what I really enjoyed about it, like the ability to connect with these like young kids who need guidance and like who are going through a lot, and just I feel like I was able to relate really, really well to them. A lot of those guys I'm really close with, and I think viewed me as kind of like a big brother, which is kind of it's a little bit easier to talk to me about things when I was 25, 26 years old talking to them than it is to talk to like a 50-year-old coach, just because I lived what they were going through not very long ago. So it was, I enjoyed it. It was a really, really good experience for me. And, I really those relationships are like what I really value out of that whole time. Even the coaches I mean, like Herm Edwards, who's an absolute legend,
yeah.
you know, hired me, and ASU is a really cool place.
So what ended things for you? Just moving on to bigger and better things?
Yeah. So I resigned from ASU about probably about 2 months ago. To pursue some other like endeavors that I've always wanted to do. I mean, I've always been really interested in media. So I'm working on a couple, media projects right now. Like you mentioned, the show that I'm kind of starting back up that I had done before.
I was gonna say you did it a few years back.
I did it a few years back before I was coaching, and then I stopped it while I was coaching, and then got into and kind of getting back into it now, and kind of like going all out on some of the media stuff. So starting back up, doing a bunch of interviews, kind of like what you're doing, but I'm more like going to be traveling around doing them instead of like a base studio. So just something that I wanted to kind of do and use some of my experiences and relationships I have with some of these athletes to kind of tell their stories, and which I think will be pretty cool. And working with a couple other companies, and just got a few things in the works right now, which I'm excited about. And kind of it's been good to be able to, when you're coaching, you're very one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Like that's all you can do. And I loved it, but you really can't like branch out into anything else. So, and I've always been really passionate about, really interested in like business and entrepreneurial things and investing and things like that. Media, even like the recent, like all the cryptocurrency, NFT stuff. Like I'm kind of diving into all these different fields, which has been really cool for me. I've always been a guy that like, I like doing multiple different things. It's like something that like motivates me. Like it's hard for me to be like one dimensional on just one thing, because I want to have my hands in all these different categories. So it's been exciting the last few months, and I'm excited to kind of keep building this, and I'm excited to get the show out and everything like that.
I mean, you're going to be doing a lot of traveling, it sounds like.
For sure.
Any place specific that you want to hit up besides like Delaware and Jersey? And
the
usual.
Yeah, I mean it's for traveling for the show, obviously I just got to go wherever the guests are, wherever I can do it. I mean, but I love traveling. It's something that I enjoy, and I'd like to explore California more now that I'm out on the West Coast. I've been to California like twice in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to like explore that area a little more. I mean, I've seen all of the East Coast, but yeah.
It's not hard to get around, man.
No.
Jersey, New York, Boston, all within 4 hours driving distance.
Yeah. Take a train anywhere.
Delaware, 7 hours down south from Jersey. Like, it's all right there.
Yeah.
Or like California, Arizona, Colorado, they're just like, those 3 states alone take up like all of the East Coast.
That is the big difference I've realized between like the East and West Coast, is like the East Coast is just made to like get around everywhere. There's like trains. You can go from Philly to New York, Philly to DC, Harrisburg to Boston, all on like train rides.
Yep.
That it costs you like $30.
Yep.
Where here you got to fly to LA to get to California.
Oh, dude, I took a train to LA once from here.
Really?
Brutal.
What was that?
It's
How
like
long
10
was
hours.
that? Yeah, that sounds terrible. Yeah.
10 hours there and back. I did it all in one day.
Really?
It was Game 4, Red Sox Dodgers World Series 2018. Left like early in the morning here, saw the game, immediately went back. 10 hours each way. I would never, ever, ever, ever suggest
10 hours
that.
on a train? Well, what'd you do the whole time? Slept?
I slept the way there for a couple hours, which was nice. And then I was just listening to music and podcasts on my phone. And the way back, I couldn't sleep at all.
That's impressive.
It was so uncomfortable. It was just like a normal. It was like as if you were sitting on a bus too.
Yeah.
It wasn't a comfortable train. It was brutal.
It takes some serious dedication to do 10 hours on a train.
I loved it that much back in the day.
Impressive.
I would never do that again, ever again. So, like, out of all the big things you got going on, anything that you can announce, or is it all under wraps?
Well,
right
I mean, the big one is just the show that I'm going to be releasing and working. I just hired on a production team, a company to help me produce it, and I mean, we're kind of working on like getting some of these guests going, but we've done 3 episodes already. Haven't released them yet. The first one's Kenny Pickett, who's going to be the first quarterback drafted in my opinion, in the draft coming up here from the University of Pittsburgh. Pat Frymuth, one of the top tight ends in the NFL. Gonna go do Mike Gesicki, who's one of my buddies for the Dolphins. Working on getting a lot of big time guys on it, so that'll be cool. I'm excited to kind of. Going, we're doing it in their homes, so it's kind of cool to like actually be sitting in their living room and doing the interview. And but yeah, so I'm excited about that, and just kind of working on doing all that kind of stuff. And as you know, like with this kind of stuff, all the different content you get from the interview. You know, like all the different short form clips and
Oh yeah, it's
growing
not
your
just
following.
it's not just like one big episode.
It's not
Like,
just the whole thing.
Make
It's not
10
just the whole
different
thing.
clips, put them out
For
whenever
sure.
you want.
So I'm excited about that and kind of building that thing up. And I think being in the sports media world is such an interesting time. And one of the reasons I wanted to kind of dive into it because of really all the gambling money that's coming into sports.
Yeah.
You have all these casinos and all these sports books coming in and dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into advertising. I mean, you have a gambling advertiser, right? That you mentioned. I mean,
BetOnline.ag, ladies and gentlemen.
Shout out them. So, but give them a little plug there. But it is a unique time because all these gambling companies are pouring money into sports that the money wasn't there before because gambling wasn't legal. So, you know, it's kind of an interesting space to be in right now. You know, and now all these NFL teams are the Cardinals are going to have a casino at their stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, in most states, gambling's not even legal yet, so it just changes everything.
It changes the whole dynamic of everything that
Yeah.
we've ever known when it comes to either sports
Really
and
does.
business
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah.
Have you ever done commentary?
Yeah, so I did. I did. I still kind of do. It's not really like my specialty. I'd like to do more of it. In 2019, I did color for a couple different networks. Kind of wasn't like with one network. I was kind of like bouncing around, doing some stuff for. I did some stuff for ESPN3, like ESPN Plus. I know you
Right.
do some stuff with
Yep.
ESPN Plus. I was doing their like low level, like, you know, like the Yale Harvard game.
Right, of course.
When they couldn't get anyone else
The
to
ones
do
that
it.
are like 30 views.
Yeah. So I was doing that. I did. Did some sideline reporting for like Flow Sports and Stadium. So I was kind of bouncing around, just learning. I mean, you know, it's fun and it's easy for me to talk about football. It's something that like just watching football and like talking about it comes really natural to me.
Yeah.
But I like it. I mean, I like being on camera. It's pretty easy. Like, I mean, you're obviously pretty good at it. You do the play-by-play stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the guy who sets you up.
Yeah.
And then
No.
you have to look really good.
Really, I mean, from my experience, like having a good play-by-play is like, I mean, play-by-play is
Oh,
the hard
yeah.
part. I mean, as you know, like you can find color guys all over the place. Like finding a good play-by-play, like you got to know the names. Like color guys can just jump in and say whatever they want. You know?
Like you guys actually know the sport.
Yeah.
So it's like, when that happened, like you could tweak that a little bit where I'm just
sure.
like, all right,
Yeah.
first and 10, takes the snap.
Yeah, colors.
Football's fun though to call.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's a big adrenaline rush. I love doing that kind of stuff. It was a fun time. I'd like to kind of get into it. You know, I'm talking to some people, some networks about doing some more and you know, this coming season. So
Oh, that's good.
we'll see.
Because
Yeah.
ESPN Plus, with everything, you can just one click of the phone, like
It's easy.
it's
Yeah.
so, and almost every single NCAA affiliate is with ESPN Plus. I
Yeah,
think these days.
for sure.
Because I remember when I was in college, it was all on YouTube, and as soon as
Yeah.
I left, they're like ESPN3,
Yep,
ESPN Plus.
3.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's
"Damn it."
right. Yeah, yeah. It's
But
crazy.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about where technology and social media and content creation is going. Because like
nuts.
everyone has to get into it now.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't matter what profession you're in. Like if you're not promoting
It's
it,
so
it's
funny.
so easy.
It's so funny you say that because you had Mike Spangenberg on here,
Yep.
the founder of State 48. You're rocking the shirt today. We were just talking the other day about how really like every company is like becoming first a media company.
Yeah.
And that state, like we were saying, State 48 eventually will be a media company that sells T-shirts because you gotta attract attention for your brand online through TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all that. It's just crazy all the attention's on
But
there.
do you model for them? Is that what that is?
Is that so? I think when Mike, who we were just talking about, when he needs like a spare model, he just hits me up and I come and
Oh,
pose
dude, that's
for him.
nice.
Yeah, he gives me a couple bucks here and there, you know. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily like a full-time State 48 model, but
No.
I'm trying to get him to put me on salary for
40
that
hours
gig.
a week. I got to leave here in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We got to shoot down.
I'm
in
trying to do a
Scottsdale.
little. I'm trying to get him to pay me a little more for it, but yeah, no, it's fun. I
How
love
long are the
company.
shoots?
An hour probably.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I
Easy
go in there.
peasy.
I go in there. He gives me some T-shirts. I throw it on, pose a little bit. I'm like, I don't know how to. They're telling me like, give me like a good give me your best pose. I'm like, what's that? I don't know what my best pose is.
They play your
You know,
favorite music in the background,
like,
get you going.
They're telling me like, loosen up a little bit. I'm like, I don't know how to loosen up.
Loosen the shoulders, man.
I'm way too
Loosey
stiff
goosey.
to be a model, but yeah, I did that shoot that you showed up there. That was a couple weeks ago. It was a fun time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's got a great setup. I mean, he's got a great production
does.
team.
Yeah.
He's got now going on 3 warehouses. The
Yeah.
one in Mesa is going to open up here in May, I think he said.
Yeah, he's a great example of it's hard to get a clothing business to succeed. It
Yeah.
really, I mean, like what he's built with his partners. I mean, it's really impressive. I mean, it's cool that you also see people like I see people wearing State 48 all the time out here. I mean, it's like they've really built a cool brand, and it's like I said, it's not an easy business to be in, to start up, to have a startup business in.
No.
Like the clothing business is brutal,
Oh my God.
but they've made it work, and they're
They found their niche.
They're
Though.
killing
State
it.
48. I mean, there's a ton of State 48s out there. It's not the number 48. You got to spell it out,
True.
legal
Yeah.
reasons,
Yeah. Yeah.
But man, I mean, he's doing great work there. You're doing great work with your show. You have a dream person that you're looking to get on the show that you haven't really booked yet?
Good question. I mean, I'd like to, my start in this kind of show is going to be mostly football players.
Yeah.
And then I'll probably evolve into doing some coaches, like big time coaches. And then I'd really like to get to the point, you're talking to people from all different walks of life,
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to start in the sports world, but I'd love to get to the point where I'm just having conversations with people, all over different fields. So it's just like anyone that has a prominent story. So any one person, I mean, President of the United States, I mean, whoever it is at the time, I mean, that's always a cool one. But just if you can build enough attention around your show, you kind of end up getting opportunities to interview guests. Kind of like how I think I DM'd you on Instagram
Yep.
about when I saw that Mike was on, and so obviously the better the show is, the more opportunities you get to talk to people and tell stories and things like that. So I don't really know if I have a specific one, but just building it up to where you're able to get guests on that you want to get,
Which is awesome,
Yeah.
And it's a process.
When people
for sure.
when people are hitting you up to go on your show, that's when you built something.
That's when
pretty
you're
cool.
like, finally,
Yeah,
people
I
are
got
paying
it.
attention,
Yeah.
man.
I love
Like
it.
literally, when I started in my basement in Jersey.
Yeah.
It was going to be a sports show.
Yeah.
Sports was my only interest at the time,
Yeah.
6 years ago when I started it, and then I've evolved from an 18-year-old to now being 23. So many different experiences I've had outside of sports, outside of just job, just in life in general, has piqued my interest in so many different things, so many different walks of life, that have awesome stories to tell.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably my true passion at the end of the day is storytelling.
Yeah.
Whether it be in sports, in film, music. We come from a big music family, all of these things are kind of culminating now to where I can hold a conversation, and I'm curious enough to ask questions to everyone in any walk of life, which is something I did not plan on doing. It kind of just happened. I kind of just let it go, and it became its own thing.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting skill, to be able to talk to anyone from any walk of life. No matter what the background is, you've obviously shown that you can do it. To be able to someone that was raised totally different from you or different background, to be able to have a conversation is definitely a cool skill, and it's cool to be able to provide that kind of content to bring people together that never would have. I probably would have never met you if it wasn't for this show right now.
If it wasn't for social media in general, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't have known anything about you.
Pretty cool.
Tell me,
Yeah.
where are you from? Where's that?
Yeah.
Where's that? Oh,
Yeah.
Avalon, New Jersey?
For sure.
No way,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Literally, I've never met anybody else
just
in the
my
world.
posts on social media.
I've never met anybody else in the world that has been in Avalon, New Jersey, besides me. So that's very cool that we've been able to connect out here in Scottsdale and have that connection.
Yeah.
So where can the people find you as we wrap up this edition?
So, I'm all over social media on Instagram at Adam Breneman, TikTok at Adam Breneman 81, Twitter at Adam Breneman 81. So I'm all over the place, posting a bunch of cool stuff now. So, but yeah, I'm excited to hopefully this will be out there too, and we see some clips from that.
End of the day, I'll make you your clips. We got a model for Mike one of these days,
for sure. Yeah, he's got to have you into model for me.
I'm gonna DM
he's always looking for
immediately.
models.
Immediately after this, I'm like, I was talking to Adam. He says you're looking for models.
For sure.
I got a decent looking mug.
It's funny.
I'll bring my cowboy hat.
You look great. Yeah. It's funny because now that I did that shoot, I got a text today actually from a coach I used to work with. And he's it was an ad that he's scrolling through his phone, and it was on Facebook, and it must have been an ad. It's me posing, and he's like, "What the hell is this?" He's like, "Are you modeling now?" I'm like, "Oh, it's a long story."
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's under wraps. It's about to blow up.
Yeah, no
but I
doubt.
appreciate you coming on, man. We're gonna have to do this again sometime soon.
sure.
Maybe get Mike in here and get everybody here. We can rep some
get all the
State
boys
48.
together. Yeah.
But this was episode 503 of the podcast. This guy had to follow Magic Johnson, so all props to you, my brother.
Big
But
shoes to
episode
fill.
503 3. We are presented by Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. Another quick shout out to State 48. Head on over to state48.com to get your apparel now. Zach, turn out the lights, man.